The scale this morning said 181.7, which is the lowest that my weight has been since I was 18 years old. That's absolutely insane. I am 36 years old. Am I 36 or 37? I am either 35 or 36 years old. I do not know. I just know that I was born on August 12th, 1988. I don't know if I'm 35 or 36. Can you guys do the math for me? But it's still insane. Since I was 18 years old, guys, I have not been 181 pounds. I actually haven't been less than 200 pounds since I was in my 20s. I actually remember going into Jenny Craig when I was 20 years old and taking that before picture and having all of these intentions of losing the weight. I was 220 pounds at 20 years old. If you don't know who I am, I'm Nikki, and thank you so much for being here. I am absolutely so excited to be sharing my journey with GLP-1 medications, and so far I have lost almost 100 pounds since my highest weight. The highest weight that I have ever weighed was 277 pounds. 2 years ago, I started GLP-1 medications at 258 pounds, and today I am 181 pounds. So this video, we're going to talk about how the last 2 weeks have been on GLP-1 medications, and I will tell you right now that it has been a rough 2 weeks, and I can't wait to get into the nitty-gritty details of why it has been so rough, what I'm going to do to hopefully make it not so rough in the future, and just to let you guys know that even though you've been on GLP-1 medications for 2 years, you can still deal with side effects and you can still deal with the not so fun part of these medications, which we're going to talk a little bit about today. But ultimately, I need you to understand that I 100% would not take any of it back. I will be on these medications for the foreseeable future, even with these negative things that are happening that we're going to talk about today, even with the downsides of the medications, because guess what? It is not all rainbows and butterflies every single week. Things get messy and things are not as fun. This week was a hard week for me, and we're going to talk about that. But ultimately, I want you to know before we even get any further in this video that I stand behind these medications completely. And if you are on the fence on if you should or should not get started on these GLP-1 medications, I want you to know that I think you absolutely should. I think that they are life-changing medications, and even though they come with side effects and not so good weeks, ultimately they are well worth it. Okay, so let's get into what has happened since my last update. The last video that I posted is my entire journey. So I actually posted a 2-year update video from the beginning to the very end, and a lot of you have subscribed to this channel from that video. Hello, I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for being here. Which means that the last update video that I posted, I think, was 2 weeks ago. I have my data here on my phone. I'm going to go back 2 Saturdays ago. On March 22nd, I was 183.6 pounds. If we compare that data, it looks like I've lost 1.9 pounds in 2 weeks. So that's not a huge loss, but it's not a bad loss, especially for me because I've been stalled on and off for such a long time. Losing 2 pounds is a huge win for me. And the fact that I'm 181 pounds, which is the lowest that I've been on this journey so far, and spoiler alert, I am on my period week, which usually means that I'm up, especially when I'm on my most. I know that I have men and women that watch this channel, so I'm going to try to not do too much TMI, but just keep in mind that my journey, definitely a lot of it revolves around the female hormones and having a period. So men, I apologize, but it is my heaviest day today, and I usually gain weight on my heaviest day. That is not the case this week, which means that maybe after I get off of my period, my weight may even actually go even lower, which means I could see the 170s. I have not seen the 170s at all, and I just can't wait. I cannot wait to enter into that new decade. You guys know, if you've been on a journey like this for a while, or even if you're on the journey, you know what it means to go into a new decade. It's the coolest feeling ever, and to be in the 170s will be a huge win for me. It's getting me really freaking close to my goal weight, and I don't even know if that will be my goal weight. I could be very happy at 160, and that's the thing with me on this journey, is that I just feel like it's just open and it's not closed. I don't have this end goal closed and that's it and that's going to be the end all. I don't know what's going to happen. And I think that's the fun part of sharing my journey here on this channel, because we don't know. We don't know. We're going to get there together. We're going to do it together. And I'm going to share the whole thing with you, and the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. And this particular video is going to be a little bit of the bad and the ugly. We're starting with good, right? 181 pounds, the lowest that I've weighed, getting close to the 170s, huge celebration. We're starting with the good. We're going to get into the ugly and the bad, and then we'll end with the good again. About a year and a half ago, I decided that I wanted to go off of birth control. So I was already into my weight loss journey. I had already lost probably a significant amount of weight September, November of 2023 when I decided I wanted to go off of birth control. I wanted to know what my body felt like and how my body was going to act not being on birth control. I also had been on this birth control called the Amble ring, which is a 1-year ring, and it kind of helps you, and it makes it to where you skip your period. And I absolutely loved the way I felt on that birth control. I loved that birth control, and I tried to get it again, and my insurance was not covering it, and it had become really pricey. So my other option was going on the Nuva ring, which is another ring that I had been on before, but it gave me headaches, and I didn't like the way I felt on it. But then the other option would be to go on the birth control pill, which I can't swallow pills, so I have to do a chewable one. A little bit of a long story, right? But I had decided ultimately that, you know what, if I can't get the Amble ring, I'm going to go ahead and just go off of the medication. My husband had decided he was going to get a vasectomy anyways, so we didn't need to worry about having birth control for the sake of birth control. And sometime after that, I started noticing when my period would start coming around. So I was like at the end of my luteal phase, getting close to like the actual bleeding phase, my symptoms, my side effects would increase. I would have way more stomach cramps. Like literally you can hear my stomach gurgling, and it would get to a point where I would be in the bathroom all night long. All night long, super uncomfortable. I absolutely hated it. I didn't realize it until recently that it was all linked to my period. Like I had started noticing it. I even started documenting it on social media where I was starting to notice, hey, every time right before my period week, my side effects increased drastically. And it got to a point where I was actually skipping the week before my period week and not doing an injection. So every month I was skipping an injection, but then I started noticing I would gain weight if I skipped an injection. But what I also started noticing is that during that time, I was having increased anxiety and increased panic moments where I was just feeling like everything was doomed. And I was having these really bad intrusive thoughts about just like the worst fears coming true. My dreams were so bad that I would wake up and I would have all this anxiety. I was so anxious. And because of the anxiety, it would flare up my stomach issues. And then I would be in the bathroom all night. And then I would be anxious, but I was having such a hard time teaching and like talking to my kids and getting through the day that I started to realize something is wrong. Something is not right. This should not be happening the exact same time every single month. This has to have something to do with my hormones. So this past 2 weeks, it got really bad, like the worst it's ever been. I had terrible dreams. I was waking up in the middle of the night, literally thinking I was dying. Like it was that bad. I started thinking that there was something wrong with my health. And then I think back and I'm like, I am the healthiest I have ever been in my adult life. For the chance of it being something with my health is so small that I knew immediately that it was anxiety, but my heart was pounding. The anxiety was so bad. I thought I was for sure going to have a panic attack. Luckily, I didn't have a panic attack, but it was hard. It was just really bad. And because of that, amplified with the GLP-1 and amplified with the side effects, now my stomach is gurgling and bubbling, and I had bouts of in the bathroom for hours. And I ended up not being able to go to work one day because it was so bad. And that's when I decided I needed to go see my gynecologist. So I went and saw my gynecologist, and essentially I was diagnosed with PMDD. PMDD stands for premenstrual dysphoric disorder. Essentially, it's just a severe form of PMS where you don't only have the physical symptoms of PMS, you also have emotional symptoms, which is what I was dealing with the anxiety and the increased intrusive thoughts and the increased dreams and just all of it. on top of like the extra physical symptoms that I was dealing with. And the reason why I had no idea that this was something that I even dealt with was because I was on birth control my entire adult life. I was either on birth control or I was pregnant. And when you're pregnant, you're not having the same hormones that you have when you're not pregnant. And I just had no idea that this was something that I dealt with until I went off of the birth control and it all came flying back. And I know you guys may be like, this has nothing to do with GLP-1 medications. Why are you telling me this story? And the reason why I am is because it absolutely does have to do with the GLP-1 medications and amplifying the side effects because of the PMDD. Because of the GLP-1 medications, it amplified the stomach issues, it amplified the cramps, it amplified the diarrhea, it amplified it all. On top of that, the anxiety and the intrusive thoughts are making me believe that the GLP-1 medication is actually hurting me, or the GLP-1 medication is making it worse, to the point of where I have actually had the thought that I wanted to go off of them completely and never doing another injection in my entire life. And that was all because of the PMDD, because it's gone right now this week. It's typically for 3 to 4 days before I start my period. I am fully in my period right now, and the PMDD symptoms are gone, and I'm back in this. I, of course, want to take my injection, and all of those intrusive thoughts I'm able to wrap my mind around now and realize that that's what was going on. And it plays a huge role in the way that I'm feeling for literally 2 weeks out of the month because of my cycle. And it was just rough. It was rough. And I do believe that the reason why I am 181 pounds today is because I was in the bathroom all night again last night. It's interesting to notice these things, and the reason why I want to share this story is because I know a lot of women also watch this channel, and if you are a man, you have daughters, you have wives, this is something that is real. This is something that girls do deal with, and it kind of terrifies me that there are teenagers and young girls who could be dealing with PMDD and we don't even know because we've never heard of this before. Because I'm pretty sure when I was a teenager, I was also dealing with these same symptoms, and I had no idea that it was even a possibility. But moving forward, I did go to my gynecologist, and I am getting on birth control. I believe I got approved for the Anovera ring. I had to jump through a couple hoops, and it got sent to another pharmacy who is supposed to be sending it to me for free. I haven't been able to talk to them yet because they've been closed. So I'm going to call them tomorrow and hope that they're going to send me one, because once I have that, my hormones will not spike like they do when I'm not on birth control, and the PMDD should be treated. Another link to this is the fact that PMDD is something that has to be treated, not cured, very much like obesity. And nobody is going to give me shit about using birth control to treat my PMDD, but people love to give me shit for using a GLP-1 to treat my obesity, which is pretty interesting. Just random thought there. So knowing all of this has really brought to attention, like, what do I want to do moving forward? Because ultimately, like, I had made up my mind, especially like in the thick of it, I had made up my mind that I was going to go back to a 5 milligram dose. I took a 7 milligram dose, and I decided that was too much. And then I wanted to go back down to a 5 milligram dose because I don't have these symptoms or these side effects on a 5 milligram dose. But ultimately, I think that it's a lot to do with being on my period, and that's why I had the side effects. So if I don't have my period, or if I'm able to be treating my PMDD with birth control, then I'm curious and I'm wondering if I will be able to dose up like I normally would have. I don't know. Like, this opens up a whole new ball game as to, will my symptoms be less severe because I'm on birth control? Or will my symptoms be more severe because I'm on birth control? But when I'm thinking back to the very beginning of being on semaglutide, I did not have side effects at the beginning. This was not something that I dealt with. So I'm very, very curious to find out if being on birth control is going to change the way that the GLP-1 medications affect me. Maybe my side effects will be less severe. Maybe I will be able to dose up slowly. I don't know. All I know right now is I am waiting to get the birth control. I am waiting to start it. And in the meantime, on Friday morning when I take my next injection, I am going to give myself a 5 milligram dose. I am not going to do a 7 milligram dose. I'm going to do a 5 milligram dose. And then once I feel like the birth control is in my system and it's doing its thing, and if I'm not having any symptoms, like 0 symptoms on a 5 milligram, if the 5 milligram dose is working and I don't have food noise, I will stay in the 5 milligram dose. But if I'm noticing I have more food noise and I'm not having any bad side effects, then I will start to slowly move back up, and we will see if I can actually handle the GLP-1 medications better being on birth control, because my hormones are not playing as much of a role like they have been the last year and a half. Another interesting fact is that I lost most of my weight while on birth control and taking GLP-1 medications. I'm almost 100% certain that when I started stalling was actually when I went off of birth control. So that's another really interesting thing that I started to think about and notice when I started to put these pieces together. I just feel like there's still so much more for me to learn and for me to share. Even though I'm 2 years into this journey, I definitely feel like even though like I'm not someone new and it's not as exciting, and there's still so much for me to share. There's so much for me to share, so much for me to learn, and I cannot wait to figure it all out. And you guys being here and cheering me on and commenting on my videos and just being a part of this journey means so much to me. You have no idea. It's so nice to not feel alone. And so many of you have said you're in the same boat, you're dealing with the same things, and so many of you have given me great advice and great insight, and I appreciate every single one of you. I'm also going to try to exercise this week. I did not exercise at all last week, not surprising. I had so much anxiety. I was not sleeping. I was exhausted. There was no way that I was going to work out last week. I do know that there are other ways to treat PMDD, and I know that a lot of people have recommended things like Pepsid AC and stuff like that, and it's not that I don't want to try those. I just know for sure that the birth control works, and there's no reason for me to not go on them. To me, that's just the easy route to treat it for now, and then I can always readjust in the future if I needed to. All right, I feel like this video has been a lot of like chit-chattery gibberish, but I hope that it's useful gibberish. I hope that I can help someone along this journey who's dealing with things that are similar to me, or at least entertain you for a few minutes while you are driving or just hanging out. But if you have any questions, if you need anything from me, please don't hesitate to reach out. If you want to just talk to me, go ahead and head over to my Instagram. You can send me a message there or just comment down below, and I am happy to respond. And if you are ready to get started on this journey with me, let's go. Come on. What is holding you back? Tell me what's holding you back in the comments if you have not started yet. If you are ready, go ahead and head down to my description. You can get started with Amble for as low as $135 per month on semaglutide. I will link my Amble FAQ page as well as the link to get started. If you want to just learn a little bit more, I do have a free GLP-1 medication starter guide that I created of all the information that I just wish I knew when I first started, that I've gathered over the last 2 years. So it could be helpful for someone who's just getting started. And if you want to get to know me a little bit better, go ahead and watch this video next, where you can learn all about my first 2 years on GLP-1 medications. All right, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.